because I think it could change the trajectory of what you do in 2024. Do you have substantially better physique this last year in 23 than you did in 22, right? Are you in way better shape? No? Okay, you didn't take consistent action. Well, you might say, well, I care. No, you don't. You don't care that much. I mean, if you really cared, you wouldn't be out of shape. People make time for what's most important. Probably a couple years ago, sad to say, I probably would have been like, no, I'm working. Like, this is more important. And it's not that it was more important than my marriage, but I was so set on a goal that like I put blinders on. And you can judge me, you can shit on me for it. I think sometimes it is actually necessary. If I went back, do I wish that I had better balance? Sure. But we're human and we make mistakes. And that's exactly why I'm being vulnerable with you guys. I'm telling you. What's going on, everybody? My name's Coach Stefan. Welcome to the Everyday Pursuit podcast. What's up? Happy freaking New Year. By the time this gets released, unfortunately, I'm about a week behind. Not because I'm not organized, but with some podcast stuff. So usually we come out every week. This one's going to come out every other week. So it will come out after the new year, probably the week after, I think. But this is basically a reflection on 2023. And even if you already had kind of a reflection or you've been thinking about it, trust me, you're going to want to take a few minutes out of your day and listen to this episode, because I think it could change the trajectory of what you do in 2024 and the goals you hit. And, you know, I ask myself if I'm proud of the effort I put in every year, really every day. But I will say, if you got a career and a family and stuff, it's kind of hard. It's not super realistic to do this huge self-reflection every day. I know some people are really good about like journaling and stuff. I'll be super honest with you guys. That has been a challenge for me to sit there and journal every day my thoughts. Like, I got a baby, a 2-month-old, a 13-year-old that wants to play football, a business to run, my own fitness. I do think self-reflection is super important. I talk about it all the time, but I will say that it's not something that I do like every day. But you should definitely reflect on your year, right? You should see how you were doing. And I'm going to break down a couple things. So I talk about this quite a bit in previous episodes, but maybe this is the first one you've ever listened to. I talk about the 5 buckets of life, which is basically in no specific order, faith, fitness, family, finance, and friends. And basically just everything that comprises somebody's life. That's how I break it up. That way I can assess how I'm doing in each area of my life. This is a fitness podcast, so we're mostly going to stick on this. But the thing about fitness is, if you feel good and you have more energy and you're more confident, you usually put in more effort into those other areas. You know, I will say this year, I did a much better job in general in all those areas than I've done in previous years, like 100%. And it doesn't mean that I normally slack, but I think that I executed better on the things that were important to me. And if you know anything about how I talk about the 5 buckets of life, I tell people that, and this is kind of, I guess, some of my coaching style too, is it's totally okay to sit there and not put a certain amount of effort into every area. And I'm going to break that down. So basically, if you look at 5 buckets, right, you could have 20% in each bucket. That's like 100% effort every day. So hopefully that makes sense. 20 times 5 is 100. And so that's something to understand, is like, most people want this balanced lifestyle. And I'm doing air quotes if you can't see me or you're not watching this on YouTube. And the balanced lifestyle, really, everybody's like, oh, if every area had 20%, my life would be perfect. But that's also super unrealistic. And for most of us, we probably have one or more areas that are pretty out of balance. Like, maybe you're crushing it in your career and that bucket is super full and you're making a ton of money. Like, maybe your marriage is suffering. Maybe you have a gut and you're overweight and you feel like shit about the way you look. I don't know, right? But I've gone through all the phases you can think of in the last 3 years, where even as a coach, I kind of got out of shape to my standards. I let myself go. Too much drinking alcohol, too much of skipping workouts for business. Put my business first and my marriage suffered. Put my business first and sometimes other things first, and my relationship with my son suffered. So we've all been there. We've all made mistakes, but I think this will give you guys a good understanding. So to give you some backstory, first couple of years in this business, we're about 3 years-ish in for Pursuit Health and Performance. I've been coaching for 13 years. And before Pursuit Health and Performance, it used to be SK Fitness. So, you know, before I got like a whole team and stuff, It's just kind of a solo business for several years. And when I started Pursuit Health Performance, I knew that I was going to get super unbalanced. Like I knew that my buckets were going to suffer. So I had a conversation with my wife. I had a conversation with my family like, hey, I'm just putting 100% effort towards this one goal and things are going to get rough. And I think a lot of times I see men and women, they go towards a goal, whether it's fitness, career, school, and they don't have those conversations. Now, does it mean that the person, like my spouse, was going to be 100% understanding and be like, oh, yeah, totally. There's never going to be any issues. Thank you for letting me know that you're going to ignore me. Thank you for letting me know that you're going to be distracted and not spend time. And as terrible as that sounds, like I think a lot of people do that. They have a vision and they have a goal, but they don't communicate it with their partner or share it. And that could be really, really challenging. And so I communicated it, but it still doesn't mean that things were perfect, right? I knew in the back of my head that it was going to be hard, but I will say I'm a human and I made mistakes, and probably the one mistake I made was uh, I didn't I didn't worry about my buckets as much as I should have. I let some get too low, and although I've been able to heal some of those areas, there's some things that I didn't do well, but there's some things I did much better. So if I look at the first 2 years of my business, I took some of those buckets of life, probably like my relationship and my friends, and they were, I won't say inexistent, but they were at the bare minimum. Instead of trying to grow it, instead of trying to probably heal things that should have been with friends or family or even my spouse, I kind of just like let them ride at a low level. And you might not be like that. You might have an awesome marriage. And maybe your area is fitness. Maybe you just like have been overweight for 4 years and that's just something you've been sweeping under the rug and not doing anything about it. And so we all have our areas. But I will say this year, 2023, I did some things that were really hard. I started going to marriage counseling. I started making some decisions with me and my son that were, I don't want to say they're not unbeneficial to me. It's hard to word this. Maybe just like inconvenient, right? But I knew that like pushing forward and improving those areas of my life, right? The relationship areas were going to take a lot of hard work and it was going to be super uncomfortable. And just like I did in my business where I just grinded and I sacrificed most things to get that to grow. And I will say, judge me or not, I don't really regret it. And I knew it was worth it. Like, even though I had people against me, I had, not against me, but people that were probably disapproving of what I was doing. Hey, why you work so much? Why you gotta do this? But I knew there was only one way for what I was and my skill and the following I had on social media and everything. I knew there was one way to do it, and it was option A. No option B, option A. If you haven't heard my story, you can go listen to, I forget what episode it is. I'll drop it below, but it's basically my origin story where I put myself in a corner on purpose to be extremely successful with this business. I bought a house. I quit my full-time job the day I closed on my house to dive all into this. I basically took huge, huge leaps and risks, both financially and tons of different stuff, because I knew that I needed to grind and I needed to back myself in the corner. And I knew that years and years of hard work were to come, but it would all be worth it. And what do you know? I'm sitting here 3 years later and our business is doing very well. And we've helped transform hundreds of people, which was also a huge vision of mine, is giving back to that community. So a reason I tell you this is because you might have an area in your life that you suck at. Like, let's just put it that way. Like you have let that bucket get freaking dry. And I say dry because I look at a buckets of water. Why do I think they're buckets of water? Because no area of your life is solid. It's not just like rocks or sand where it's just there. If you know anything about buckets of water, imagine you had to carry 5 buckets of water and walk every day. Well, as you know, the water moves and it splashes and you lose some, and some gets heavy and you might drop one bucket. And that's really how life is. This like perfect balance thing, air quotes again. Um, I don't think it really exists. I think it's a balancing act continuously every day till the day you die. And you might have some areas that you've gotten so beefy that the bucket's easy to carry, right? So for me, it's fitness. Fitness is generally easy. I built up a great physique after 17 years of consistent lifting where I can let that bucket suffer a little bit. Or maybe for you, you're crushing in your career and you got promotion to a captain or whatever you do for a living, or maybe you got your NP and you're crushing it at work and you can kind of, I don't want to say coast, but like you've made it kind of, right? Well, cool. Now you've made it. Now you can take that energy and that effort, and that bucket's pretty solid, and you can put it into other things. Maybe it's your marriage. Maybe it's your fitness. Hopefully it's your fitness. That's probably why you're listening to this. But that concept, I want you to wrap your head around that, because I think A lot of people search for this perfect balance, and I don't think it exists. And I think it drives people crazy, right? They're searching for something that might never be found. And I also realized this year that my life looks different than other people, and that's okay. And it took a lot of communication and a lot of bringing my family onto support where 3 years, okay? Now they know the lifestyle. They know that when we travel, I like just got back from a trip in Oregon. I'm on my laptop in the morning. I'm kind of doing some work here and there and whatever. And it seems like I'm always working because I kind of am, but I'm also able to do what I want. I went to Oregon for 8 days. And if I don't want to work, I don't have to work. And if I don't want to do this, I don't have to. Now, this isn't a business career podcast, but it's the whole point of I put in so much effort into an area of my life that I actually have more decisions. But to get there, I got rid of all my decisions. Let me say that again. I got to an area of my life where I can make decisions if I want to do something or if I don't. I have a lot of freedom. But to get there, I sacrificed and I had zero freedom. All I did was work for 12 to 16 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. And there's still weeks and days I grind and things like that, but I knew it was going to be worth it. And I see people do that with their fitness. They're like, dude, this year, 100%. Like, not that they give up every area of their life, but like, this is the only thing that matters. No more drinking, no more partying. Dude, I'm done with that crap. Like, I am going to make a freaking transformation and I'm going to set the pace and the trajectory for the rest of my life. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being overweight. I'm tired of having low energy. And they do it. They do it. But you know what that means? There were some trade-offs. There were some sacrifices for sure, right? There were some things that couldn't happen. It takes grinding and it takes like digging, right? You can't have a big transformation without big sacrifices. It's almost impossible. And the big sacrifices don't have to be like one big thing, like, oh, I'm getting divorced so I can get in shape because my wife doesn't support me. That's not what I'm saying. The big things could also be a bunch of small, continuous decisions that add up to be a big change, right? Like one decision, just like, hey, I'm not even going to change my nutrition, which probably isn't a good idea if you're trying to lose weight, but I'm not changing my nutrition. I'm just going to the gym for 45 minutes, 7 days a week, which might sound dramatic, but like that's still one decision makes a big, big change. And it is a sacrifice. Maybe you're having less free time. Maybe you're having, I don't know, right? And for me, for this year, I had to make sacrifices. Me leaving in the middle of work to, I make my own schedule, but to do counseling or to take care of my son and my baby, or to go on a date with my wife during the day, or do these things that probably a couple years ago, sad to say, I probably would have been like, no, I'm working. Like this is more important. And it's not that it was more important than my marriage, but I was so set on a goal that like I put blinders on. And you can judge me, you can shit on me for it. I think sometimes it is actually necessary. If I went back, do I wish that I had better balance? Sure. But we're human and we make mistakes. And that's exactly why I'm being vulnerable with you guys and telling you that if you're going to reflect, you need to find what areas you could have done a little better on. And the and part is the most important part, and actually have a plan to take consistent action until that area gets better. It's not about perfection. It is about just getting better each freaking week, each month, each year, right? And that's what I've done. I also see my business development, but I've seen the things and the person that I become over the last 3 years. And I could have, and I've seen this happen to friends. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm friends with business owners and people in the space. And I've seen this happen to a lot of people, and it sucks to see, but they didn't have that realization. They didn't check in with themselves enough. They didn't check in with their spouse enough, or their kids, or maybe even a mentor, and they just grinded and grinded and grinded, and their marriage ended. Or they're grinding, and a lot of them don't have kids, but maybe their friendship ended, or maybe they didn't spend enough time with their kids. And that sucks. That leads to a lot of regrets. And the reason, again, that I'm bringing this up to you guys, I know a lot of you are first responders probably, is you will still deal with some of those same decisions. It might just look a little bit different for you. Do you have substantially better physique this last year in 23 than you did in 22, right? Are you in way better shape? No? Okay, you didn't take consistent action. Is your marriage substantially better? Maybe you're already crushing it, but like, did it improve? No, we didn't take consistent action. You could just go on area and area and area. You should have like pretty good improvement in every area that you put work in. it's pretty simple, right? Like if you grinded at work and you did all the tests and you did all the things and you got promoted, you'd be like, this makes complete sense. I put in the effort, therefore I get the results. But what happens is we do this self-reflection probably every year, like, all right, I'm going to get in shape. New year, new me. And regardless of what you think about that statement, I get it, right? It's like that fresh start effect. Like, all right, it's a new year. And that's all fine and dandy, but like, why aren't you getting in shape? Why aren't you actually improving that area? There's no plan. There's no consistent action, and there's no accountability around taking consistent action. And let me tell you, being successful, and when I say that, you define that for you. The way that I define it for me is having all 5 of those buckets getting better each year. Some, just based on the person's strengths and what they're good at, are going to be better than others, and some will struggle. But guess what? The areas you suck at, the areas you struggle, you need to work harder. Freaking common sense, right? Like for me, fitness is easy. Doesn't mean I don't do it. It just means it doesn't need as much of my emotional, intellectual energy each day. I just kind of check off the box. Doesn't mean I'm half-assing my workouts, but it's not as challenging for me as it would be for you. But like I said, there are some other things that are challenging for me, and I just have to put more effort into those areas. Where people fail is they know they suck at those areas. They know those are the weak areas, and those are the avoidant areas, because people avoid uncomfortable. People avoid hard work. That's really the story of why people stay inconsistent. And look, guys, I want to educate you a little bit, right? Here's kind of like what I would say has really helped me, right? Putting in more effort is not just something that comes, right? Like, all right, Stefan, I get what you're saying. I'm really struggling with fitness. I'm really struggling with this area. I just need to put in more effort. Sure, but the 2 things that set people back is, number 1, too many distractions. There's a lot of information on social media. There's a lot of information just in the world, news, whatever. And sometimes when we go to set a goal, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be improving any of those buckets of life. It's an overload of information. So it's almost impossible to have a plan, to take action, and to take action consistently. And regardless of what area, you really need a plan that you feel good about. If you emotionally feel bad about it, if you're like, I don't know, this doesn't really work, you're going to avoid it. At a conscious or subconscious level, it's going to be avoided, or you're going to avoid it because you don't want to do it. You don't really believe that it will work. You don't really have buy-in. So finding something that you feel good about and getting rid of distractions as much as you can. And we see this with people in our program. What happens is they are on social media and they're, oh, do this diet, do this, blah, blah, blah. And what happens is it's analysis by paralysis. There's so much information, they don't know what to do. And there's too many distractions. And so it's very hard to have consistent action. And so they get a coach, and now they have one plan, and they feel good about it because they met with the coach and it was created for them, and they start doing it, and maybe they're struggling. So they have accountability and they make sure they can do it consistently. That's it. It's that simple. It's a very simple equation. It's not easy, but it's simple. And so you want to get rid of your distractions. Another thing to do is get rid of your options. You probably have too many options. Prime example. Why are you overweight? Why are you out of shape? Why are you inconsistent? Because it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? Who cares? Well, you might say, well, I care. No, you don't. You don't care that much. I mean, if you really cared, you wouldn't be out of shape. Is that fair? I mean, think about that. If you really cared, you would make time for it. I know you watch Netflix. I know you chilling on the couch. I know you scroll through your phone. If it was important, if you had a gun to your head, you would do it. And that seems maybe drastic to you, but I really do believe, and I am guilty of this, okay? I'm not innocent. People make time for what's most important, right? Look at somebody's bank account and you'll find out what their hobbies are, what's most important to them. Like, people are easier to tell and read than you might think. I've been in this industry a long time. And so getting rid of distractions and giving yourself less options. And we see this sometimes with people in our program too. They're like, all right, I'm all in. I'm paying the whole year up front. Let's go. I'm investing. They're all in. And they're basically giving themselves an option A, and that's it. And they're purposefully backing themselves in the corner. Why? Because when people are all in and they jumped in the deep end, they're already in. They have no other choice but to back out. And most people will talk themselves out of it. Low commitment. I mean, imagine you do a program and you pay $10 a month for it. Who cares if you go? And we see this with Planet Fitness. People pay $10 a month for Planet Fitness. Who gives a shit if they go? They don't care. I bet you so few people use that membership. It doesn't matter. It's $10. What if same Planet Fitness, what if you paid $500 a month? You think you'd go? I bet you you would go way, 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 way more. I'd never pay $500. Well, that's fine. But the point is, money actually ties people to things, but it's not just money, it's emotional investment. But money is emotional investment. You understand that? People are very emotional about money, right? Go rob some money out of somebody's bank account. You think they're gonna get pissed? Yes. Anger is an emotion. People are emotional about money. Let's say you win $1 million. You're gonna be the happiest you've ever got? Yes. People are tied emotionally to money. So when you can invest in things, it backs you in the corner. When I first started this business, I invested over $10,000 in coaching when I didn't have the money, when my wife was in nursing school, when I was working 2 jobs, because I knew that it would make me take action no matter what. So I freaking dove all in. The next thing you need to do, kind of actionable steps, is you need to just make a decision that it's important to you. Most people are out of shape because being in shape isn't that important. And there's a difference between like wanting to change and not changing. And I think it was like episode 78 or 77. You can check it out. But there is a difference between like actually wanting to change. You might say like, dude, coach, you don't even you don't get it, dude. I do want to be in shape. Sure, but like desire is one thing. I could say I want to be a billionaire. I could say I want, imagine I have a big gut and I'm like, I want abs. And if you just went around telling everybody, I'm sure eventually people would be like, okay, so go get them. And then obviously the follow up with that is like, you don't want to do the work. And then people laugh at you because they're like, okay, you want this thing, but you're not willing to do any work. And mostly it comes to you don't want it. Like it's a pipe dream a little bit, but it's not something that you've sat with alone long enough and decided it's important. And it's crazy because you guys have probably done this in some area of your life. If you're a first responder, that means you decided to go into a career. And you probably, I'm guessing, thought long and hard about it. Like, do I want to do this? And maybe you had to go to school, and maybe you had to pass a test, and maybe you had to sit for an exam and do all these things. Cool. Well, that was a decision, and you had to sit alone in your thoughts probably at some point and be like, do I want to do this? Is this important? And if you're doing the job, there's your answer, right? Like it was important enough to where you did it despite the excuses, despite your circumstance. And dude, hats off. And you're serving your community and you're a badass and people appreciate you and you're doing good work. But it started with you making that decision. And it's very, very hard to commit to something when you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Like try to have a successful marriage when you're like kind of love the person. You kind of like them. You're kind of committed, right? Like not a great idea. So why would you do that with fitness? And I see people do it all the time. Now I got a gym membership. Well, how much you pay? $10 a month. Yeah, that's the lowest commitment you can get. Congratulations. You set yourself up for failure. How close is your gym? 40 minutes away. Failure number 2, huge barrier, right? Do you have a plan? Well, I kind of do like chest and back and buys. Okay, so you're winging it. Yeah. Okay. Failure number 3. You get what I'm saying? Like that's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You are afraid of committing. And I don't know why. I actually think a lot of people are afraid of success. And I know that sounds super weird. Most like, oh, I'm afraid of having abs. Not just the abs. I think the success scares people. What if? What if you became a freaking animal? Like, what if you lost the weight? What if you felt good in your dress or your tux or your uniform? What if you felt the most physically capable, right, at the firehouse or in your squadron? Like, what if you were that badass? What would your life look like? And I know it might excite you, but a lot of people are scared because it's hard for them to envision because they've never been there, but it's a possibility. So they're avoidant. And I would also say that most first responders are not lazy. Okay. You have a job that is, even if you're not a first responder, most people aren't lazy, but especially the first responder medical community, not the easiest jobs in the world, right? I'm not crapping on any other jobs, but you didn't just take some Joe Schmo 9-to-5 job. You took a job that had long shifts and demanding, you got to deal with people in emergencies and trauma. That is not easy. So you're not a lazy person. You might be disorganized. You might not have a plan. You might be avoidant, but you're not lazy. And so that's action step number 2. Number 3, you need to focus on your weakest area. If you're listening to me right now, I'm guessing your weakest area, one of them, is fitness. So I want you to assess your life. Now, if your marriage and your career are falling apart, you probably should, in my opinion, you should actually focus on fitness because it's going to, and I'm not saying solely at all, like please save your job, save your marriage. But I'm telling you that if you have a really bad mental health and you're a not confident person and you know that you're not putting in the effort, it's going to be very hard to show up at your job and in your relationship the way you should. Do you understand that? If you're if you view yourself as a fat slob and lazy and disorganized, you're supposed to show up as a confident, loving spouse. Like I imagine that's hard. I have coached hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men and women that have I basically been their therapist. They have told me about their relationships and all that. So this is also coming from people that I've coached that have been like, I feel like this in my relationship. I show up like this. I view myself like this. And usually the people that are out of shape, it's a very negative light. How are you supposed to show up in a relationship with the love and the intimacy and things you're supposed to when you view yourself like that? When you know that you're capable of X and you're way down here? Like, how are you supposed to? It hurts the marriage. Also, your job. If you're a firefighter or a cop in the military, you have a duty and you have a duty to be more fit than the average person. If you feel, and this is just terminology that I use in the military, if you show up in your uniform and you feel like a dirtbag and like a slob, how are you supposed to sit there? And you probably have fit people in your crew or whatever, whether you're, first responder, fire, military. And like, do you want to be that person that people laugh at or make fun of? No, nobody wants that. So that's going to affect your career, plus real life safety situations, by the way. And if you have a family, are you setting a good example? So that's why I say you want to focus on your weakest link. And it might be a bunch of other things too. Like you might have to focus on your career, you might have to focus on your marriage, but you can actually do all of them. I just always start with fitness because I know, like, let's say first thing in the morning, I wake up and I work out and I just am happy and I'm less depressed and I feel good and I have less anxiety. Everything I do throughout the day and every interaction with anybody about anything will be more positive. I hope you understand that concept. I've been working out for 17 years, 5 to 7 days a week, almost every week. And I can tell you right now that my mental health is no bueno when I don't train. It's not. I suffer with anxiety and depression and all these things. But when I do train, especially like first thing in the morning, because I have that like post workout high, I am happier. It actually helps my marriage. It actually helps my job. It helps interactions I have with a stranger at the grocery store. So that's why I think that just from the mental health standpoint, obviously you might have physical performance goals, but you need to start working on the weakest link first. And if you're not willing to do that and you keep sweeping it under the rug, it will just get worse. That bucket will just be empty. And here's the scariest part. Sometimes the buckets get so empty that we just give up. And that's when you see severe obesity, right? Like, how did the person get that fat? The bucket scared them. They're like, it's so dry. It's like this. There's no effort in it that I don't even know where to start. Don't let that be you, right? And you might be like, I'm only 20 pounds overweight. It's not that bad. Yeah, but when's enough enough? Like, why are you even 20 pounds overweight? Like, why are you letting yourself slip up? Are you not holding yourself to excellence? Obviously not. It's okay. But like, why? What is it? Is it a self-worth thing? Is it an excuse thing, which I'm not even going to like start on? Because I mean, that's a whole nother, go listen to, I think it's episode 14, Your Excuses Are Killing You. And I'm going to come out with another one in a month or so. That's basically part 2 of it, but like whatever it is. Okay. So here's kind of the like call to action for you. Number 1, you need to invest in yourself. And this doesn't have to be in our program. Although if you're looking to get in shape, you probably as a first responder need something custom. You probably are lost, right? You're probably winging it at the gym if you're going or just kind of doing random stuff. And that's why you have random results. Do you understand that? Like if you're doing random programming and you're eating randomly, you expect to have awesome results. That's like spending money arbitrarily. Like, spend here and spend here. And I don't really ever check my bank account. And I kind of don't know the investments. I just kind of do this thing. And I'm supposed to get really wealthy. You would laugh, right? You'd be like, you're not tracking any data. You're not tracking any numbers. You're just kind of spending when you feel like you should and saving when you feel like you should. And you're supposed to be just like really wealthy and have this good financial background. No, you would just have a random kind of maybe okay one, but like your results will never be the same. Okay. So you need to get on something structured. Same thing with your marriage. You're like, well, we're just going to work it out. No, you should probably go to a professional and get a third party opinion and do things. Yes, it costs money. Yes, it's inconvenient. Yes, you might not like it, but that's all the more reason you should do it, right? Mostly for a lot of men, I'm talking to you, it comes with pride. I don't need a coach. I don't need a counselor. I don't need, I have friends that struggle with different things too. I could do it. I don't need some stupid person. You blah, blah, blah. I'm tough. Okay, well, are you where you want to be? Yes or no? If you're not, it means you can't do it. or you haven't been doing it. Now you could keep chancing it and you could keep having pride, but the risk way outweighs the benefit. The risk is you get more out of shape. The risk is you lose your career. The risk is your marriage gets worse versus you let down your pride, you get a little uncomfortable, and all those things could actually get substantially better. Why not? I mean, if it's not working now, why wouldn't you try something? Especially if it's worked for hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people. Like, yes, we have had hundreds of people come through our program, but one-on-one structured high-level coaching is, we're not the only company that does it. It's a very proven process to get people the best results with their physique. Just like counseling, not all counselors are great, but I would say that marriage counseling probably saved millions of marriages, right? I'm not just, I'm honing on that because I know we have a lot of, I'm married, right? And I know we have a lot of people that have spouses. And I know that people's marriage with like stress and stuff and kid relationships and all those things and even finances like become a struggle. So I'm giving you guys some analogies. Okay. I'm not saying your marriage is terrible, but hopefully you can see that like it's the same avoidance, right? It's the same pride thing. And eventually you just have to like go all in. Okay. Another thing, well, this is kind of like on that. It is saying you can do it on your own, right? It's kind of a pride thing, but I'm just going to do some logic with you. It's the end of 2023. Are you where you wanted to be? Like think about at the beginning of 2023, where you thought you would be now. Are you there? Maybe you don't even remember. And that's why I write down my goals, by the way, guys, because I won't remember. I write them down. I looked back on my goals and I laughed in enjoyment. I was like, crush that one. And there were some things I was a little bit short on, but I am proud of myself. I really am. I did way better. The last couple of years, I was pretty disappointed. There's some areas that I neglected that I wasn't good about. I didn't like touch my faith the last like first year of my business, really how I should have. I didn't dive into my marriage a lot. There were some things that I kept sweeping under the rug. Like, oh, I'll focus on it later. Oh, it'll get better. You know what? It didn't get better. It actually just got worse. And the worse it gets, the harder it is to salvage. And sometimes it's unsalvageable. And I think that's when like people just keep gaining weight or divorce happens or they end their career, they get fired. Don't let a bucket get that freaking empty. Okay. If you say you can do it on your own, you can't. I mean that. I'm not trying to be unsupportive, but let's just be real. You can't. If you could have, you would have. You would have already been there. That was a huge thing for me when like I first invested in a business coach. I was super prideful. I was very educated. I was a published fitness model. I was in really good shape. And the guy that was coaching me for business like, was a trainer, way more successful than me, not as good a trainer, not as good a shape, not as educated in the realm of training, but way more educated in business. And I had to be like, so you're where I want to be and beyond. You're better at what I am doing right now. So I just need to let down my pride. And as much as it kills me to have you help me, and he was younger than me too, which, you know, probably as a man, maybe is like not the best feeling. I'm like, yeah, I should know. Like I'm older than you. But I'm like, you know what? I don't care. You have what I want as far as where you are in business. And I need to just learn from somebody that is better than me and more experienced. And I don't want to play the trial and error game because I respect my time and I know time's finite and I'm just tired of it and I want the best results possible. So I had to invest and I had to come to the realization of, Stefan, if you knew, because I had that conversation, by the way, I was like, dude, just do it on your own. Well, I tried multiple times. And look, real talk. If you have never tried anything fitness wise by yourself, yeah, don't go get somebody. I mean, you can. It's probably going to get you the best results. You won't have to go through as much trial and error. You won't have to go through a lot of pain and questioning. You'll get to your results way faster. But like maybe you want to try it on your own. But my guess is if you're listening to this, you've tried a lot of stuff. You've tried all the diets, a lot of them. You've tried all the workout routines. A lot of the firefighters specifically and law enforcement I talked to, you guys have been lifting for a long time, like in and out of fitness, right? You're a firefighter, so you have to be decently physically fit, but you just do random stuff. You don't actually have a program. I mean, when's the last time you followed a structured program, like basically to the T, really on point for like 12 months straight? Most of you guys never. So my thing is, sure, you can kind of do it on your own, but again, you're going to have results that are like kind of on your own. And it wasn't until I actually laid down and was like, I'm going to get uncomfortable. I'm going to invest money that I don't want to invest. I'm going to invest time that I don't want to invest. I'm going to invest emotional effort that I didn't really want to invest in my business, in my relationship with my son, in my relationship with my spouse, in my faith. I mean, literally every bucket. And some of them were more uncomfortable than others. And it's not because I don't care about those situations, but those were the hard ones for me, right? Like those were hard for me to do it because I could have used excuse like I'm not leaving, I'm not paying, 125 bucks a session for this. I'm not driving here in the middle of the day, but like I wanted things to get better, so I had to just not look at that portion and look at the outcome. And you have to ask yourself, if you invested, if you made 2024 different, if you actually sat there and invested in whatever that area is that you need to invest in. Okay. Time, money, effort, energy, right? All the same thing. If you invested in it and you got the results you wanted, would it be worth it? And almost everybody says, well, absolutely. Well, then why don't you? And there's a couple things. Number one, you might think, well, everybody else can do it, but it won't work for me. Well, then if that's the mindset, you're already failing. That's a very weak mindset, by the way. You better make it work for you. I would have the opposite. If it worked for you, it better work for me. And that's honestly the mindset I had when I got in business. I saw these people I knew they were not as good as me. They were like, as trainers, not experienced, not as educated. Why were they making more money? Why were they helping more people? Like how? And I let down my pride and I was like, regardless of what I think, I need to know what you know. I'm a sponge. I'm your student. Teach me. Not easy to do. So like I said, it wasn't until I got to that point where I was able to actually, you know, make make success. And so that's why I'm a really big about you guys sitting there and doing a reflection. And I would write it down, honestly. Like I think if you get anything from this episode, I would highly suggest taking like 10 minutes. I mean, I know a lot of you are not going to do this. And if you don't, maybe this is your problem. Maybe this is exactly why you are where you are. But here's my challenge. I want you to sit there and I want you to just take 10 minutes, put a freaking timer on your phone. It's only 10 minutes. And I want you to just write down those 5 areas. Okay. Some are more important, some are not. I'm just going to say faith, finances, fitness, family, friends. Family obviously is like spouse, kids, friends is like social life and stuff like that. Maybe some like coworker stuff. But like maybe some of those areas are more important, but I want you to rate yourself on a 1 to 10. You don't have to write everything that you did. You can go super in depth if you want to, but just rate yourself how you did in 2023. Super easy exercise. You're writing down 5 words and then next to it, colon, you're just going to put what you were, 1 out of 10. Be super honest with yourself. Just sit alone because that's going to give you a really good assessment. Maybe like your one area was like a 3. A 10 would be like you did everything you needed to, you executed. And I don't expect you guys to get 10s, but let's say some areas are like a 3 or a 4. That's where you need to start. And again, probably one of your areas maybe is fitness. Maybe you're like a 5, but do you want to be a 5? Do you want to be a 6? I don't. I want to be an animal. I want to be in good shape. I want to look good, feel good, play with my son, be sexy for my wife. These are things that I want. I want to have those. And I know they take effort and I know they don't come easy. So I appreciate it, guys. If this is your first episode, thank you for listening. If not, coming with some fire. This one was just more of a self-reflection and just honestly, maybe a look into my life and some of the coaching conversations that I've had. But we do talk about a lot of mindset, but training, nutrition, supplementation, some things that are maybe a little more like tangible because you might be listening to this like, tell me what supplement to take. I'm telling you right now, if you can't do this stuff, this is the hardest stuff, by the way. You just tell me what creatine to take. Nope. It doesn't work like that. I know that's what you want because that's the most simple surface answer that actually, and that is probably another reason maybe why you're not in the good shape. You're like, just tell me what workouts to do. Dude, if that was the issue, you wouldn't be overweight. If you just needed to know the workouts, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. You wouldn't be listening to this. That is not your issue. Your issue is you can't self-reflect. And then once you do self-reflect, even if you journal it, even if you do it in your head, there's no consistent action taken after because you don't have a plan, you don't have accountability. That is the problem. We're going to solve that though. So if you like this, please subscribe. I don't know where you're listening to this on. We do have this on YouTube. By the way, you can see my beautiful face. If you're listening to this on Spotify, we got a couple cameras here. I don't know. I feel bad for you if you're gonna stare at me for 30 minutes. But in all seriousness, you go watch it on YouTube. You can subscribe there. It's Under Pursuit Health and Performance. Or if you're watching this on Spotify, I do ask that you give us a rating, maybe like, share the episode, or even if you're watching this on a short, I know we're like literally all over Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that you share this because it is super helpful. I put a lot of time, money, and effort into these podcasts, and they're literally for you guys. I appreciate it. I love you guys, and we'll talk to you next week.